Coach, welcome.
You get him on mute though.
Can you hear me okay, Coach?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. We appreciate the time, Coach. If you would just give us a quick opening statement on how bowl preparations have gone so far, and then we'll go right into questions.
All right, our guys have been in good spirits, getting after it. Proud of the way they worked. Proud of the way all of them came back, locked in and ready to go from some travel break they had, and got all of them back. They did a great job getting back, and they've been awesome. So we're getting ready now to head over to Atlanta.
All right. Thanks, Coach. All right, we'll go ahead and go right into questions for Coach Smart. Please raise your hand, get in the queue, and we'll start off with Jordan Hill. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, Kirby, just want to ask at this point in the week what the availability looks like for Ladd and Warren.
Yeah, we're excited to get those guys hopefully back, and we'll see how they do this week.
All right. Next, we'll go to Connor Riley.
Yeah, Kirby, sorry, not exactly about Peach Bowl, but you signed 2 transfers last week. What did you see in them that you thought they'd be a good fit for your program?
We knew both those kids coming out of high school. I think a lot of them, they performed at a high level in our conference, and I think they'll challenge and compete with the rest of our roster at being competitive wideouts, which is important in this conference.
All right. Next question to Brooks Austin.
Yeah, Coach, I'm just curious. When you turn on the tape of Ohio State most of the year, they seem to be a 3-high football team. You turn them on against Michigan, they're loading the box, committed to stopping the run. I guess which defense are you expecting to get, and how do you prepare for both?
Well, I expect to get a little bit of all of them. Some of that will be probably determined by what personnel we're in and how we use our guys. We've got 3-4 really good tight ends, and we hope to be able to use those guys in this game. And a lot of that's going to boil down to how we play and what we do and try to dictate to them. They've got a really good defensive football team. They're very physical, done a great job dating back to the Oklahoma State days, and very good, aggressive, multiple package on defense, where they give you multiple looks and things.
All right. Next, we'll go to Joey Kaufman.
Kirby, CJ Stroud mentioned that Georgia was his second choice school coming out of high school. Just wondering what you remember the most about recruiting him and scouting him as a quarterback prospect coming out of California.
Yeah, I loved his mom, man. What a tremendous woman. She's awesome. Went all the way across the country and got to sit in his home and visit with him. And, he has a really good disposition about him. He's not real high, not real low, not real emotional. He keeps a really level head, which to me at quarterback is one of the number one qualities you can find. And he came on a visit to our place as well and got to see him at the Heisman, and he's just matured. And to see him grow, he's always had tremendous arm strength and touch and velocity on throws. But he's become a complete quarterback there in their system.
All right. Next question from Zach Klein.
Hey, Kirby, I know you try to keep everything the same in terms of practice, routine, schedule, but do you look at these extracurricular things, the MLK visit, for example, as an important or a necessity part of a bowl week, or more of a distraction?
Well, I think it's part of the bowl process, and this the merger is unique between CFP, the playoff games, and the bowl games, because the bowl games have their traditions, have their beliefs, have their sponsors, and those traditions are very important to the bowls. I mean, any of the playoff games that you can play in, even with them rotating, they have bowl traditions. I went to those bowl games as a coach or a player a long time ago, and they started those traditions. So their traditions are important to them. The playoff and the meaning of the game is important to them too, but you have to balance the two. You got to make sure your players understand this is my off time, and they have activities that are scheduled, but we also are here for a purpose, and it's a business trip. It's not just a joy trip, and the balance of those two is important. So I look forward to the activities. We had them last year at the Orange Bowl. It's important to get your mind off of the game at times, and those activities allow you to do that.
All right. Next, we'll go to Bill Rabinowitz.
Kirby, you obviously have more than just one good tight end. You have 2, multiple ones. What kind of pressure does that put on a defense, and how special are yours?
I think it's just different. So much of college football now is 11 personnel. So when you play 12, it's always different from a defensive perspective because what sets they can make. They can be a little more multiple, but you probably lose some speed when you do that. And that's probably what makes ours different is we don't sacrifice a lot of speed from 11 to 12 like some teams might. And to stretch the field vertically and horizontally, you need speed. So 12's been a good personnel for us this year. We're excited about 13. We got some guys that have been out through this bowl process. It's given us a chance to work those guys. So it's a good opportunity to get your best football players on the field, and I think you have to do that.
All right, we'll go next to Chip Towers.
Yeah, Coach, we may have addressed this with you, but if you don't mind, Chris Smith, it just seems like the example. He's from right there at Hapeville Charter, not too far from where you guys are. And he seems to have, having come back as a fifth-year senior, played himself into an All-American and a legitimate NFL draft choice. What can you say about the progress that he's made and the path that he's taken?
Yeah, really proud of Chris and his growth. He came in as a really astute, tough, competitive, fiery, just competitor. And he's grown into this incredible leader. I think through his passion and his competitiveness. He hates losing at anything. He dislikes underperforming. And he's one of those guys, when you give stats in practice, he calls you out if he thinks they're wrong. So he's really prideful about things. But he's a product of our development, and he came in and has really blossomed into a really good safety prospect at the next level. And just proud of the work he's done. I mean, he's a great example of, if you stick around and grow in this system, you can be really good. And a lot of his buddies and friends left and moved on, and he stuck around, and it's proven to be worth it, just like Devontae and Jordan did.
All right, next we'll go to Mark Weiser.
Kirby, what's been the key to maintaining the level of success on defense with new coordinators and a new cast of guys for the most part in terms of frontline guys?
It's just culture. I mean, that's not going to change. What we do is not going to change. So it doesn't matter if one coach leaves or another coach leaves. That doesn't impact our defense. We rep a lot of players at practice. We have a system set up to get our 2s and 3s ready. So, the next cast of defensive players is getting ready right now, just like they were last year. So I think if you've got a good formula for getting guys ready, it prevents large gaps in seasons.
All right, time for just a few more. Next, we'll go to Nathan Baird. Go ahead, Nathan.
Kirby, it seems like this multiple running back thing has become kind of a staple of Georgia's offense. Is that something that philosophically that you felt especially committed to? And if so, why is that?
Well, it's really about health and necessity. Throughout our conference, we've done studies, and very few backs have made it through the entire year with a large burden. They tend to get injured. You look across the NFL right now, the number of injuries at running backs, it's rampant through a 17, 18 game season. And then, we're playing off of 12, 13, sometimes 14, 15 game season, not to mention the preseason camp stuff. So we try to build it where 3 to 4 backs can contribute and play. And some of that's dictated by, whether we have leads in the fourth quarter or whether guys are injured. But we don't want to get into this part of the season and not have depth. And that's what the rotation provides us.
All right, next we'll go to Anthony Dasher. Anthony, I think you're on mute.
I sure am. Coach, what's the advantage of playing the same venue for 3 times this year?
I couldn't understand you there. Same what?
No, what's the advantage of playing in the same venue like Mercedes-Benz for the 3rd time this year?
Probably that where the scoreboard, the clocks, and all the different stuff is the biggest thing. The field's the same. There's not a lot of difference in terms of the diameter and the width of the field. But I think it's more about familiarity of the quarterback knowing the shot clock and the ribbons and the different things. The biggest difference is, both teams will get to practice in there, so they'll be familiar with it by the time the game starts.
All right, we'll take our final question from Jake Rowe. Go ahead, Jake.
Kirby, wanted to ask you, last year, it's not often you get into the college football playoff coming off a loss. You guys did it last year. Ohio State's doing it this year. Can you look back and think about anything that you guys got from kind of maybe that bitter taste you had in the mouth and all that time off coming off a loss and focus, energy, whatever?
Yeah, it recentered things. I think you recalibrate and you look back, and sometimes the reality of your weaknesses pop up a lot more in a loss. We like to say, why do you got to lose to learn? You shouldn't have to do that, but it certainly is a wake up call. And teams I've been with that it recentered everybody and refocused everybody. But obviously we've tried to do that without that, and sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. It's just one of those things.
All right, that's all we've got for you, Coach. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move right into the players. First joining us is Cedric Van Pran. We'll go ahead and please get in the question queue. And let's start off with Connor Riley. Go ahead, Connor.
Hey, Cedric. Hope you had a good Christmas. How have you seen Amarius Mims develop and grow over the course of this season? Obviously, Warren dealing with a little bit of injury right now, and I know Amarius has had injury of his own. How have you seen him improve over the course of this year?
I think Amarius has grown a lot. Just being completely honest, I think he's grown a lot in his confidence in game. Early in the season, he was a guy that looked really good in practice, and I know he had his struggles just because you kind of have anxieties and things like that. But genuinely throughout the season, he's really stepped up in a huge way for this offensive line. Really helped us out, really helped us play some meaningful minutes, and really has helped push his offensive line along. And I think that's happened through his confidence.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll go to Mike Griffith. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, Cedric, we've heard a lot about the Ohio State fronts. I mean, just how much movement is there, and how much do they try to create confusion in there?
They do a lot of different things, a lot of different looks, a lot of different pressures, different things like that. So the biggest thing is just making sure that you watch film. It's going to be a big thing this week, making sure you can find indicators and different things of that nature to try to give you different nuggets, because if you have no idea what's going on, that defense can create some havoc for you.
All right, next we'll go back to Chip Towers.
Yeah, Cedric, I'm wondering, you guys got a lot of activities this week, go-karts and Ebenezer Baptist Church, things like that. Is that a tough balance when you're trying to focus on, such a meaningful game like this? Is it annoying, or is it a welcomed sort of reprieve from all that?
That's a good question. I definitely want to say we appreciate the Chick-fil-A Bowl for giving us the opportunity to do all of these great things. But with all due respect to them, ultimately, we do want to focus on the game and make sure that, we're staying focused. But ultimately, I think it'll be good for some of the guys to kind of get an hour or two away and kind of relax, but ultimately knowing what our goal is.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll go to Jordan Hill.
Cedric, kind of going off of that, as someone who has gone through this, do you have advice for your teammates as far as kind of understanding how to balance all those things?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I've been trying to stress to everyone is just the use of your time. It can really get away from you. You kind of think we're in a hotel. It's not, typical just everyday schedule, just meetings and practice. But you really have to use your time wisely and understand that you're there for a reason, because before you know it, the game will be there.
All right, we'll go next to Zach Klein.
You're going to be disappointed if they don't have a go-kart big enough for you?
I'm probably already expecting that, to be honest. I've never gotten to do go-karts just because they've always been too small, but I'm kind of expecting that.
Next, go to Brooks Austin, please.
Yes, Cedric, I'm just curious. You talk about all the multiple different fronts they play and whatnot. I guess with having a sixth-year guy like Stetson behind you, how much of the responsibilities are kind of shared between the both of you in terms of identification, alignment, and assignment, and all that good stuff?
That's a really good question. Genuinely, it's about being on the same page, because he may see things on film and I may see things on film, and it may change depending on who may have the last say so, depending upon, what's going on. He may be able to see certain things that I can't. I may be able to see certain things that he can't. So it's really just making sure that we're both on the same page and understanding that, we may see two different looks or we may see two different things, but ultimately knowing the greater good of the play, what page we both need to be on. So that's usually the challenge week in and week out, just making sure we both kind of see things through the same set of eyes. And honestly, it's usually not a problem.
How often are you guys watching film together, if I may ask?
That's a good question. A lot of times may not necessarily be together for the simple fact of he may be looking at more routes, coverages, different things like that. I may be looking at more fronts, movements, linebacker width, nuggets, different things like that. But what I can say is we do send each other a lot of things through text messages. If there's something I may think that he may have a problem with or something he think I may have a problem with, kind of send it to each other, make sure that we're on the same page communicating about it.
All right, next we'll go to Anthony Dasher.
Hey, Cedric, what's the biggest advantage from an offensive standpoint about playing in a venue for the third time this year?
That's a good question. But honestly, I don't think I want to kind of dive too much into the advantage. Just being honest, I think every stadium is I guess I want to say unique for the simple fact of you just have to go out there and play, your style of ball. I don't think you can get too caught up in, the advantages of the stadium, anything like that, because at the end of the day, this is a playoff game. Ohio State's going to come out there and give everything they have. So at the end of the day, those things start to even out. And it's all going to come down to who can execute the most.
All right, we'll take our last question from Jordan Hill.
Cedric, you guys were up for the Joe Moore Award again and wound up not winning it. Does that get talked about at all? Is that any sort of motivation going into the playoff?
That's a tricky question to answer that. We've definitely talked about it. We just want to keep doing what we can for this team.
All right, Cedric, I think that's it for you, buddy. We appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you. God bless y'all.
All right, next we'll be joined by Kamari Lassiter. All right, Kamari, can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir, I can.
Very good. Okay, got a few questions for you. Let's start off. We'll go back to Chip Towers for the first question.
Yeah, Kamari, good to see you. Obviously when you watch Ohio State on film, those quarterbacks and wide receivers just jump out. And we know what happened in the second half against LSU. Just your take on that. Have you guys tightened up? Did you need to tighten up? And how do you feel about that matchup being a big part of it?
Sorry, I didn't hear most of your question. You were glitching. May you repeat that for me, please?
I was glitching. Come on,
Yes.
Garvey, what's going on with this thing? No, obviously, when you look at Ohio State, their quarterback and receivers really jump off the film. They're special. You guys struggled a little bit against LSU on some vertical game, and I just wonder, have you guys tightened up? Did you need to tighten up since the LSU game and just being a big part of that matchup? How do you feel about it?
Ohio State, they definitely have, a lot of great receivers, a great quarterback. We got a lot of respect for them. And I would say, during the LSU game, not trying to backtrack too far, but we did have some lapses during that game in the second half where we just really needed to recenter and refocus, after that win and during this time off and, just get back to the basics of Georgia football.
All right, next we'll go to Nathan Baird. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, just specifically watching film studying for this game, what strikes you about Marvin Harrison Jr. and what he's done so well to be successful?
Really, he's a really good player. I got a lot of respect for him. He's very physical. He's a big, long guy with a pretty big catch radius. So I say and he just seems like he pays attention. He has a lot of attention to detail during the game, and I think that's what makes him a pretty good player.
All right, next question from Brooks Austin.
Yeah, Kamari, Coach Smart talks about you guys living to play the next snap if and when you get beat all the time. I guess as a young player, first-year starter, Was there any moment in the season where you had a learning curve as opposed to like how to get over things a lot faster, how to really live the next snap as opposed to maybe dwelling on getting beat on the previous?
I'd say definitely during like beginning of the season, you know, you want to make every play, and you know, whenever you can't do that at sometimes, you know, it's kind of hard to like, you know, try not to harp on it. But with the pace of the game, you know, you have a whole, you know, 10 or 11 other guys counting on you, then you got a whole team counting on you to, you know, do your job for the next play. So, you know, I mean, it's a part of the game. You know, you get beat every once in a while, but the main thing is how you respond, and the response is what's most important.
All right, we'll go next to Mark Weiser.
Kamari, I know you're getting ready for the Ohio State receivers. I wanted to ask you about Dominic Lovett from Missouri, Rara Thomas from Mississippi State that are coming to Georgia as transfers. Do you remember going up against them and watching them on film? What do they bring individually from what you remember?
Both of those guys are pretty good players, you know, both explosive, you know, with big catch radiuses. So, I mean, they'll be pretty good additions to our team next year. But, you know, right now, focus on what's important now.
All right, we'll go next to Connor Riley.
Hey, Kamar, I just wanted to ask you about Malachi Starks and how you've seen him improve over the course of the season. Obviously makes the big play in that first game against Oregon, but obviously a lot more comes at playing safety than just intercepting passes.
I say Malachi, you know, he just gets better every week. You know, he's a young guy, but he's very talented, and he's like a sponge. You know, he wants to, you know, soak up all the nuggets, you know, everything that he can learn to become a better player. And I say that, you know, each week he tries to, you know, get better. You can see it on the field. You can see it at practice in the film room as well.
All right, we'll take our next question from Dan Hope.
Hey, Kamari, when you guys are preparing for Ohio State offense, do they remind you of anybody you've played during the regular season, or are they very different from teams you've played so far?
I'd say, you know, they're pretty unique in themselves. You know, they do a lot of things that are different, and they're very good at what they do. You know, they got a very dynamic quarterback and really good guys outside and in the backfield as well. So, you know, they're pretty unique, just, you know, with what they do and how well they do it.
All right, next question from Mike Griffith.
Yeah, Kamari, Kirby's got a pretty strong record when he's got more than 1 week to prepare. You know, can you talk about what you guys do with that extra time and just how dialed in you're able to get when you've got that extra time versus maybe from 1 week to the next?
It's pretty much like I said earlier. You know, we like to recenter and refocus. You know, focus on Georgia football at first, and, you know, fix the things that we need to fix as a team, and then, you know, we have a really good coaching staff and players who are ready, you know, to buy in. And after that, you know, we go into our game plan, and, you know, we dissect what we need to dissect and attack, you know, whatever we need to attack.
All right, we'll take our final question from Jordan Hill. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, Kamar, you mentioned the sort of the refocusing and recentering. What have these last few weeks been like for you guys in the secondary coming off of that LSU game?
In the secondary, we've just been, you know, harping on technique and working on our base coverages, you know, working on, you know, day one things, and, you know, just mainly technique and, you know, gaining, you know, more confidence and stuff like that.
All right, Kamari, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, that's going to conclude our Georgia session. We will have transcripts and video links posted to our media downloads page shortly. We'll send out a notice when all of those are online for you. Appreciate everybody's time. Thanks very much for joining us.